Welcome to the Halftime Show, your world of sports in half the time. I'm Colton the Bias.
And I'm Kiara Fry.
And we thank you for joining us for another episode. As always, we have a lot to get into, and today we are first going to discuss a debatable topic that has been going on in the sports world for quite some time now. Tanking. Is it justified for teams to tank the season, meaning just lose games on purpose to build up more draft picks in the future? Or should teams just try to win now, regardless of who they have on their roster? Now, Kiara, I want to first get your opinions on this. Do you think that tanking is justified?
So I'm kind of back and forth on this issue. I think that it's justifiable, but I don't think that that should be the mindset that teams have about their season. You would think that they would want to go out, put their best foot forward, give the best competition that they can at that time with what they have, but I understand why they would want to tank and better position themselves for the future. So I think it's justifiable and it makes sense, but I don't think that's necessarily what they should be doing.
Yeah, Kiara, I 100% agree with you. And you know what? I'm kind of on the same page because I don't want to encourage any team out there to tank, but I mean, it's worked in the past. I mean, it could work again. I mean, I've worked on some examples, and we can even start with our hometown team, the Pittsburgh Penguins, who tanked the season to get Mario Lemieux in 1984. And how did that turn out? No, nothing, just 2 Stanley Cups and 6 Art Ross trophies. And also, the Philadelphia 76ers, you know, they had the trust the process over the past couple of years, and they finished in dead last in the Eastern Conference for at least 3 or 4 years, or at least at the bottom of it. And then they were able to build through the draft, getting players like Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid. So, I mean, it's worked in the past.
You also can't forget the Rockets in 1984 when tanking was first just starting to become a thing. They were, I think it was 26-20 with their season, and they decided to just concede the playoffs, take the L's, and position themselves better to get one of the 2 best players in the next draft. And they ended up with Akeem Olajuwon, who was a huge player in their back-to-back championship seasons.
And the other player, I think, was Michael Jordan.
Yes.
Yeah, so, and also, there's also some other examples. I mean, we saw it with the Cleveland Browns, who basically have been taking the past 20 years of their season, and they were able to build through the draft, getting players like Myles Garrett and Baker Mayfield, even though he really didn't play as great on Monday night against San Francisco. But I mean, it's worked, and it also works in baseball as well. Even though even though I think it's a little more difficult in baseball because you don't play right away because you have to work your way up through the minors. But I mean, we saw it with a team like the Houston Astros, who were at the bottom of the league for in the early 2010s, and then they would go on to win the World Series in 2017 after building in the draft, you know, getting players like Carlos Correa. So I mean we've seen it work, but I still don't think teams should do it.
Yeah, I agree that they shouldn't do it. And I think you brought up a good point with the MLB being a little bit different. I think tanking is honestly the most common in the NFL because of the way that the draft is set up. And with the Browns, they finished last almost every season, and that put them in the position to get the first draft picks and really rebuild.
And it just makes me wonder because the NHL and the NBA have a draft lottery, which means the last teams just don't get the first round. I mean, just don't get the first overall pick. It's through a lottery, and the NFL has that too. So real quick, do you think that the NFL should maybe have something like that?
I think that they should consider it because it would discourage teams from tanking their seasons, but you still see that happening in the NBA, so I'm not sure that it would completely fix the issue.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that, and we're going to have to wrap things up here. We're going to have to go to our first commercial break. Coming up, we have a Man on the Street coming up as hockey season is underway in Pittsburgh.
All right, go. Go to our new website, uview.plainpark.edu.
Go.
Join UView and find your herd.
Be like, join EOP. And 3, 2, join EOP.
I was just saying, grab them now, or else I can.
Yeah.
Join On Point with Politics. 3, 2, 1.
what you'll ever do.
Hockey season is finally here, and fans here in Pittsburgh and around the United States and Canada are so excited to see their favorite team suit up once again. We are here outside of PPG Paints Arena as the Pittsburgh Penguins will begin regular season play tonight against the Buffalo Sabres. I went around before the game asking fans what they expect from the Penguins this season. Take a look. How excited are you for the Penguin season, sir?
I look optimistic for them. I mean, there's some changes they made, but they still have a good core team, and I think that they'll make the playoffs. I don't know about the Stanley Cup, but I think they'll do good to get into the playoffs. So
really excited. My son's actually going out with the whole family tonight at Buffalo Wild Wings because they don't have tickets. So we're all there.
I'm very excited to see Murray, how he plays in goal, and I'm ready to see Sidney Crosby do his thing and hope Malcolm returns to his old form.
Well, I guess I'm spoiled because it always seems that the Penguins and the Steelers always gets the playoffs. It's being a Pittsburgh fan, so kind of get jealous of that every year. So,
well, hopefully they'll be successful. So we'll wait and see. But let's see what happens. They had some complications, but I'm sure they'll get through it.
Yeah, you mean like playoffs, Stanley Cup? Or...
Yeah, playoffs definitely. Let's keep our fingers crossed for the Stanley Cup.
Stanley Cup or nothing.
Stanley Cup or nothing, huh?
Stanley Cup or nothing.
How come?
We're winners in Pittsburgh. We don't take second place or lower.
Now, I do apologize. We would have liked to gotten more interviews for you, but unfortunately, we had to stop recording early because it started raining on us. But nonetheless, we are joined with Austin Alkire and Luke Mongelli in studio to talk some more about hockey. Guys, thank you so much for coming back on.
Thanks for having us.
All right, now guys, first, I want to get started on what has been the team that has surprised you the most this season.
I'd say that the team that surprised me the most had to be the Edmonton Oilers. They came out of the gates running as hard as they could, and with a 3-0 record, they have 16 goals for, which leads the NHL. James Neal has 6 of those goals, and they only have 9 goals against. I think with this kind of start, they're going to be a real force in the league, the Western Conference this season.
Yeah, I think for me, the Buffalo Sabres really surprised me. We saw them open the season against the Pittsburgh Penguins, and the questions about their goaltending were answered. Carter Hutton, coming from St. Louis as a backup, he's actually looked pretty good so far. Same with Linus Ullmark. The defense has improved with Rasmus Ristolainen coming back after having the worst plus-minus last year. And so far, they're scoring goals, and they look pretty good in the Atlantic Division.
Yeah. Kiera, what about you?
I was actually going to say the Oilers as well. They were one team that kind of surprised me. They've been really hot so far this season, and they're coming out strong, and I think that could really help them lead and have a pretty good season.
Yeah, I think the team that I was most surprised about was the San Jose Sharks, as they have started the season 0-4, made it to the second round of the playoffs last year. I just expected a lot more from this team, but hey, it's still early, so you never know. So
it is still early, but thinking ahead a little bit, are there any teams that performed really well last year that you guys could see possibly missing the playoffs this season?
Yeah, absolutely. The Dallas Stars, for sure. I think that they have all this star power with Jamie Benn, Tyler Seguin, Corey Perry, and their goaltender Ben Bishop. I think that they did really well last season, but it was because it was a fresh look for the team. I don't think that they're going to live up to the hype again this year. They started off with a poor record, and I just don't think they're going to have the same boom as they did last year.
For me, the Winnipeg Jets are the team that did really good last year, but I don't think they're going to be as strong. It took them a while to sign Kyle Connor and Patrick Laine. Their defense is rough with Dustin Byfuglien thinking about retirement. Same with Dmitry Kulikov. Their defense going into the game last night against the Penguins had an average of 59 career games played. And I don't think they're experienced enough to make another playoff run.
Yep. Alrighty, guys. Thank you so much for coming on today, and we are going to have to go to another break. And coming up, we have some Australian football to talk about. You won't want to miss it. Don't go anywhere.
The United Student Government at Point Park University, working since the 1970s to solve the issues that matter to you. What concerns do you have about the university? Student life, safety, food service? Send us an email to studentconcerns@pointpark.edu or stop by our office on the 7th floor of the Student Center. You can also attend our weekly open meetings on Mondays at 3:15. Follow us on social media at USG_PPU for more. The United Student Government, by the students, for the students.
The Point Park Sports Network, bringing you live coverage of Pioneer Athletics on Stretch Internet, the home of the River States Conference and the NAIA. Subscribe today for complete access to the Point Park volleyball, baseball, basketball, and soccer teams. Watch live and on-demand broadcasts and don't miss a minute of Point Park Athletics. Head to pointparksports.com/live for broadcast listings. The Point Park Sports Network, your streaming home for Point Park Athletics.
3, 2, 1.
Please visit our website. Please, it's a nice website. Please visit our website. Please.
If you have ever watched television, whether accidentally or on purpose, YouView is for you.
Welcome back to the Halftime Show. We normally talk a lot of NFL, but this episode we're going to talk about the Australian Football League. The 2019 Grand Final recently happened in Australia. The Richmond Tigers defeated the Greater Western Sydney Giants 114-25. To discuss the AFL, we bring in Sam Kosh for his halftime debut.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yep. Alrighty, Sam. So when I was researching this game, it blew my mind. Can you maybe tell us a little more about the rules and the scoring as well?
Oh man, it's a whole different game. So you've basically got NFL, you've no pads at all, so you just bump into each other body on body. But no, you're running as much as soccer players. You have to be as athletic as basketball players, and it's crazy to be honest. But no, it's a game of its own. It's a game of its own.
Yeah, like when I was researching, like I just love the competitiveness of the sport and just knowing that you just have to be so tough to play it. And also, how are the atmospheres like at games? You know, someone who's Australian yourself,
Yes.
I mean, I'm sure you really enjoy going to games.
Oh man, it's electrifying. You'll get at the grand final at the 2 weeks ago, I think it was now, they had I think in excess of 100,000 people that were there. So it's like the biggest sport by far in Australia.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that there are a lot of these different components and there's a lot of athleticism involved. How tough do you have to be able to play in the AFL and really be able to compete there?
Man, you have to be super tough. Like honestly, concussions seem to be a normal occurrence, which is quite sad. But it's body on body. It's crazy. Like there'll be some points where during the game they'll have to because in soccer you've got extra time they'll add on at the end of the game. But it is super tough to play.
And what do you think is really exciting about the game that really gets people in Australia excited about it and really want to watch it?
Oh, well, there's so much going on at any given time. You can't really take your eyes off it. It's that electricity. Like there's someone always sprinting up with the ball. It never stops. It's like if it does stop, it's like for a second, and it's so fun to watch.
What similarities do you think the AFL has compared to the NFL here in the United States?
To the NFL, I mean, there's just like you guys don't kick it as much. We kick it more, but we can't throw in Australia. You have to what's called a handball, so you basically punch it. But no, it's a lot more running. There's a lot more just go all the time. But there's a few differences. Yeah.
Did you ever have experience playing back in Australia?
I played a little bit in elementary school. I wasn't the greatest, but I gave it a try. You know, it's good fun.
Well, that's why you came over here to play basketball, right?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. It didn't really work, so
So there's 8 players on each side. There's it's like an egg-shaped ball, so it's like a football. Are there like any other rules we should maybe know about? I guess maybe like a marks. I remember looking that up, and also how much points are worth when you score?
Well, so you score 6 points for a goal. So if you get it there's 4 posts. So if you get it in between the middle posts, then it's a goal, which is what we call, and there's 6 points. If you get it in between the smaller posts, it's 1 point. So if you hit the post as well, it's 1 point. So I mean, yeah, it's similar to NFL in the way that there's a lot more tackling
and stuff like that. But I mean, it's just a game of its own with how much running and stuff like that there is.
Yeah, it seems like a game of its own indeed. And Sam, we thank you so much for coming on today.
Pleasure.
And that will wrap things up wrap things up here for the halftime show. I'm Colton the Bias.
I'm Kiara Fry.
And we hope to see you again next week. Have a great night, everyone.